Thank you, folks, for joining us tonight. I still see a few, the number is still slowly going up, so I'll start with my intro, but we'll take our time as folks are still joining. So thank you so much for joining us tonight for this webinar. We are incredibly excited to hear from a few of the hereditary chiefs of the Wet'suwet'en who are bringing forward this climate litigation and who are taking the stand to protect not only their territory, but all of us across Turtle Island and globally by doing their part to stop climate change and to hold Canada to account. We are recording this webinar, so if you are registered and you do have to leave, you will be sent a link to the recording as well. And we will be doing a bit of a summary of the case as well as hearing from the chiefs themselves. And for those who don't know me, my name is Wet'suwet'en Hereditary. I'm the campaigns director here at Raven. Today I am joining from the territory of the Haudenosaunee, in particular the Yintah in Kingston, Ontario. I myself am a member of the Bonestell First Nation and grateful to be working with Raven. And before we get into our presentations, I will pass it over to the three chiefs that we do have on right now and allow them to give a brief introduction of who they are, and then we'll get more into the weeds of this litigation and the work that they're doing. So I'll start with you, Smogulgam.
Hi, my name is Smogulgam. I'm the head chief of the Sun House, the Sky People of the Wet'suwet'en Nation. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the court case, but the history of our people as well, and how we got involved in this kind of work. I'm quite familiar with the struggle that we've had to face over the last 15 years with industry coming into our lands. I lived out in Wet'suwet'en territory for 10 years before I came back home about 5 years ago. And I had to resist pipelines in support of the Wet'suwet'en during that time period. And I've been really active during that time to try and spread awareness with the industrial appetite to come in and take our resources and destroy everything in its wake. So I'm fully aware of that stuff, and I've been involved in this for a while. So I'm glad that you have me here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Adam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Adam Gagnon, and my respected chief name is Sahel, and I'm of the Sun House, and we have two of our high chiefs. So we have three houses, and two of them are active right now, but like Smogulgam said, he's of the Sun House, and then Gun is of the Owl House. So they are both my chiefs. And yeah, no, I've been in the fight there for a lot of years, and you know, our ancestors, you know, have been in the fight for over 130 years, and it's up to us now as the younger generation to keep on trying to maintain some integrity of our lands and all of the resources and you know, all of the game and wildlife that's around. So that's what I was doing for the last 4 years.
Thank you. And Antoinette, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm on now. Denise Zakozek Skyzek, Site Sazi Hagwalau. My English name is Antoinette Austin, and I've been in the field of education for over 40 years, and very much an environmentalist throughout that time, finding ways to educate children and bring them back out onto the land. And so that's actually a role that I play out at Parrot Lake a supporting role as not only an elder, but as an educator. And I have been part of the Parrot Lake group, working with my clan up at Parrot Lake. Like, I was one of these people that was reluctant to go out onto the land, but once I got there, I got sucked right into it. And I just love it. And Tebesa is right beside me.
Oh, look at that. We're in paradise. My name is Lillian Wilson with the Wet'suwet'en clan. My hereditary name is Tebesa, which I've held for 4 years. Like Antoinette, I am an educator. I teach the grade 5, 6, 7 class in Wet'suwet'en. And we do tend to use Parrot Lake as our base in terms of our outdoor education program with our students. And we do tend to use a lot of our land resources to teach the students about, well, we follow the curriculum. So just teaching them about ecosystems, habitats, various elder teachings, our traditional stories, who looks after these territories. And then it kind of fits right in with our governance stuff as well. Oh, it's stuff.
Thank you. And last but very much not least, Gun. Oh, you're still muted. We can't hear you. There you go.
Okay, thank you. And thank you. As soon as I come on, something come across my screen.
That's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay. There, we're back. Thank you, everybody that's out there. My name is Gun. I'm the chief of the Owl House for the Wet'suwet'en, and one of the 13 house chiefs that protect our territory, the Wet'suwet'en territories. I'm here with a big concern for our territory, in the sense that when we take a look at our water, we're getting less and less water every year. Our glaciers are shrinking, and all of the different practices that we have, from fisheries practices, from the federal fisheries and provincial, to the logging practices, to the mining practices, all of this, along with oil and gas and coal, have me concerned over where we are going to be going into the future. The big concern I've got is for the fish that we identify with. We all have crests. You hear us as the owl, the sun, as caribou, as different people. We have different crests, but one of the things that we identify with the most is our river and our fish. And we fought many wars with our neighbors to hold the Wet'suwet'en territory. And right now it's under a different threat. And the threat is the environment. And it's important that we hold the federal government, provincial government, all of those who are responsible for trying to take care of emissions on a federal level, on a world level, to do their job and to do exactly that, and not just talk about it. So it was very important for us that we launch this court case in order to start moving forward to try to hold them accountable. And I'm hoping that we can do that. And I'm glad to be on this webinar. This is the first time for me, so I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not computer literate, so thank you to everybody that's out there. Hopefully we can answer a lot of the questions when they start coming up. Tabi Masai.
Thank you. And before we get into some questions that we'll ask the folks who are here as well and hearing a bit more about the work they're doing. I will give a little bit of an overview of the case. And so I'll just ask, Krista, do you want to share the slide? Or Andrea, are you able to do that?
Yeah, just give me a second and I'll find that.
No problem.
But you can also just start talking about the case. Yeah, and I'll catch up to you.
So with this case, what the case focuses on is, as I mentioned, holding Canada to account for not meeting its commitment to keep its emission levels at a place where we are keeping with the Paris Accord efforts to. Andrea, can you hear me? I'm seeing some folks in the chat. Okay. I'm good. Okay. So to keep Canada in line with its commitments made under the Paris Accord, to keep warming in Canada to a minimum and keep it to approximately between that 1.5, approximately around that 1.5 mark. What's really interesting about this litigation is that it focuses on using the Charter of Rights in Canada in order to do this. The claim as it was originally put together focused on a few different charter rights, including the right to equality and the right to life and liberty and security of the person. Unfortunately, Canada tried to throw up a roadblock and did try to get this case thrown out right from the get-go. And that was through bringing a motion to have the case thrown out before a hearing, before a trial, based on arguing that it didn't disclose a reasonable cause of action, based on saying that there was nothing there that was for a court to decide. Recently, in December of 2023, the Federal Court of Appeal did decide that actually this case can move forward, in particular on the grounds of Section 7, which are our rights to life, liberty, and security of the person. What's really incredible about this and really exciting as well is that this is a novel, a new area of litigation, a new field to be focusing on. And it was also decided alongside another case called LaRose, which was brought by a group of youth and young people who are also bringing a charter challenge to hold Canada to account. And so not only through this challenge are the Wet'suwet'en bringing their own precedent-setting case, but they're contributing to a larger movement of climate litigation that's happening not only in Canada, but around the world. And this is really exciting to see. And it's really exciting to know that the Federal Court of Appeal has said that it will allow this case to move forward. We are waiting to hear whether or not the Crown may appeal that decision. And we're hoping to hear any day now. And with that decision, we'll know whether or not we can move forward to a hearing, and we'll be ready to stand by and watch the Wet'suwet'en bring this to a hearing, or whether or not there's a chance it might be appealed to the Supreme Court. Either way, we're on the precipice of something that will set precedent and is incredibly exciting. And with that, I want to first turn to Andrea.
Hi, I just want to jump in because a few people said the audio wasn't clear. So I'm seeing that in the chat, Carly, our wonderful development director, is going to send a transcript. We're also going to send slides of everything that Leslie Ann just said. I'll also put the campaign page in the chat just so that you can get a quick overview of what the groundbreaking charter challenge is all about. So sorry about the audio, and please keep telling us if there's any technical glitches and we'll do our best to resolve them. Thanks.
Okay. And with that, I expect Antoinette will want to jump in and answer this next one. But as I mentioned, there's also the LaRose case that was decided at the Federal Court of Appeal alongside this, which actually has Wet'suwet'en youth who is taking part in this. And so, Antoinette, do you want to speak a little bit to how the youth in the community are learning about this and learning about the resistance that the Wet'suwet'en people have been doing for years, and how you're teaching them about your traditions and teaching them on the land, and how in many ways you're at a time of youth and elders joining hands in this larger work.
I certainly can. We work with elementary school children initially. Like my first group of children that I ever brought out to the territory was age 4, or grade 4. Sorry about that. But and in that time, we had gone to Parrot Lake, and we stayed for 3 days out on the territory and did some hunting. Smogelscam was part of that group, and did all sorts of different exercises on the earth with these children, including hunting. And during the times that we bring them out, we educate them about the importance of respecting the territory, about these are traditional teachings. You only take what you need. Never go beyond that, and always state your intention when you're going out onto the territory. Like if you're going out to berry pick, you state your intention. You do a little ceremony, state your intention. Give a little piece of yourself. It could be a piece of your hair. It could be your sputum. It could be tobacco. It could be, but you're giving something of yourself. And with that intention, to make it known that you're only here to do good things, not to harm anybody or anything. So that is the biggest challenge we have in our society now with the corporate world. They're not taking only what they need. They're taking way more than what they need, and sometimes we're taking children and letting them see the degradation that's happening out here. When you see the earth mowed down with absolutely nothing to show for it, like from our territory perspective, knowing how many creatures of the earth their homes were taken away from them. And right from the birds to the little fur-bearing creatures to the big mammals, but the homes are just stripped right out from under them. So then we wonder why the animals are moving inland, moving toward the more urban environments. And this is the impact of that. But anyways, the takeaway from this with the children is it's momentous. Like they never forget these experiences. When they leave, some of them are shedding tears having to leave the territory. Because there's just some kind of healing that's going on with them, just without even our input in some of these areas. We can present what we have traditionally, and then the children do the rest, just in their play or in their observing the creatures on the land. They walk away feeling so full. Lil, did you want to add to that, just in the sense of what the children take away from the territory and the youth?
Yeah, so one of the projects that we had this year was to bring them out to Parrot Lake, basically to, like Auntie said, to observe what's happening out there as Skyzek, and for them, like she said, to learn about respecting the land, respecting the water, and just understanding that we all have our part to play out there. And one of the things, their big takeaway this year was to see that the destruction that we went through up at Parrot Lake this year was actually a result of having massive forest fires that surrounded us. We were actually triangulated this year by 3 different forest fires. And it seemed to us like we were asked to evacuate twice, 2 or 3 times. And the kids were really bummed out about that because we've been taking them up there for a few years now. And they're starting to see with the lack of rain, the droughts that we're having, the lack of animals that we're able to see up there. They were able to make connections that that we have a big part to play in preserving the our resources and whatnot. And what was actually quite miraculous about this year's, we had a couple nights that we spent the night out at Parrot Lake, and we had Kyle Perniak come out with us as well, and he was teaching them archery, like skills to shoot. And one of the boys actually was able to shoot a grouse with his archery set, and we did some prayers. They cooked the grouse over an open fire. It was so funny because we had like 16 kids up there and all the adults, and somehow we managed to cut little tiny little squares like this of grouse and shared with everybody. And it was such an empowering part for this young fellow, because it was also a way to teach them about their rite of passage. Like, this is the responsibility. And Adam spoke really eloquently with the students about it's a rite of passage, but it's also for them to understand that when you take something from the land like that, like Antoinette said, we have to show the land and the animals the utmost respect for being able to take those animals. And there's a high responsibility that comes along with that, in knowing that you have to know the land. You have to, like she said, just only take what you're going to keep. Don't take any more than what we need. And so the students really appreciated that. And we also showed them various plants that grow out there, Labrador tea. They were really quite bummed out that our berry patch was completely bone dry. Most of the plants looked dead this year. We didn't spot one single huckleberry on our one of our territories out there because of the drought. And so the students really look forward to going out berry picking with us and having our elders come out and share stories about the land and share their knowledge about how to look after the land, and so that we don't continue to get into these cycles of, it just feels like continuous loss because of how our climate is changing. And the other one was at the beginning of the year. We usually can a lot of salmon, and our salmon was late by a whole month. And what we were told by the Department of Fisheries and Oceans was that the salmon were late because the rivers and the creeks were way too warm for the fish to go up the rivers. And it caused a lot of people to miss out on being able to get their fish this year. So we're really facing a huge challenge out on our territories right now, and just trying to maneuver what we can and cannot take is really becoming quite a challenge. It's really quite interfering with our way of life, and also with teaching our next generation how to preserve these resources when they're kind of just being taken away from us. And I think that's about all I have to offer there. Let's say.
Thank you. And with that, you both mentioned some of the impacts of climate change on the territory. And I know, Adam, this is something we've spoken about quite a bit. Would you like to tell us a little bit about some of the impacts of climate change that you're seeing on the territory as well?
Yes. Yeah, that's been going on, for basically the last, 130 years that we've been, since our people got moved off of the land and moved onto reservations. And what has happened there is the extraction industries have basically desecrated pretty much all of our territory. We've got 80% of our timber is completely gone, which means that there's no more canopy for all of the wildlife, and you know, the wildlife have no, like other speakers said before, the wildlife have no place to go. You know, so but the biggest impact there from the forest industry is the lack of canopy. So that means when you got no snow, nothing to cover snow, you have no understory there for the snow to slowly melt and get the proper filtration through the ground. You end up with very fast runoff in the spring and high waters in the spring, and then after that the river goes down very quick and gets really warm, and it really impacts what some of the previous speakers said, you know, our salmon, but also you know, all of our fur-bearing animals there are impacted as well, like Antoine and Lillian talked about the forest fires there that has plagued all of our territory this last year. And it's one of the things in 2022, it was the first time I had ever seen the creek dry up completely at Parrot Lake, what we call Mystique, which is Owl Creek, and coming into the lake, which is it's a chain of lake. They call it the Parrot Lakes, but our name for it, where our village is Mystique. And we look at all of the impacts there with all of the different industries, but the biggest one is the oil industry. The oil industry is one of the hugest impact on climate change, because we were fighting this pipeline simply because of the you know, the greenhouse gases there that all of the fracking starts by, you know, the building of the fracking equipment going up into the you know, up into northeastern British Columbia, and taking billions and billions of liters of water, contaminating it and putting it back into the environment, and also the impact it has on all of the animals up there, all the migratory birds and all of the fur-bearing animals, you know, that are dying from all of the toxicity from, you know, the carnage that's left behind. It's not just human carnage from, you know, all of the different cancers that people are getting, but also the carnage there of all of the wildlife there that's up in northeastern British Columbia. And then if this Coastal GasLink pipeline, for example, you know, the Site C Dam was built just to basically bring all of the, like 60% of the power is going to be for pumping oil and gas. You know, like BC didn't need the power, and there's going to be 20% per sale, and the other, you know, you lose 20% there from electrons there from transmission. But still, you look at all of that and the harm, you know, that the oil and gas industry is doing, you know, to the environment. And it is interesting there because we tried to deal with this a few years ago, and then COVID hit, and then all of a sudden everything kind of fell by the wayside there. There was some, we couldn't get on, do our national tour. We wanted to do and make people aware right across Canada. And I know Raven was very interested in facilitating and helping however they can on this tour. And I think it's important to also note, you know, that the mining industries too have a huge impact on our land. We have 2 watersheds that have been completely destroyed, you know, by the Equity Silver mine, and you know, wiped out, you know, all of our fish in the Buck River, which was a salmon and a coho stream, and it just completely wiped it out back in the late 80s. And that was just all due to government negligence there by allowing permits there to mine at the top of the mountain, and cause when they finished, there was a massive acid spill right into the Sam Grizzly Lake and right down into the Buck River that wiped out all of the fish. And it also impacted through the Maxan, the upper Bulkley, wiping out one of our major lamprey creeks, which was the upper Bulkley, and wiped out all of our lamprey as well. So it's interesting how, it's not just the impacts of the oil and gas, but all of the other industries too that are really affecting us as First Nations people. And the responsibility of us as hereditary chiefs is to try to maintain some sort of integrity on the land. And back in the 70s, our chiefs told us back then that we have to nurture the land back to life, because they say what has happened so far with all of this extraction industries, it's basically they're taking way too much, because we know ourselves that greed has no conscience. And you got all these corporations that are the only ones, they're taking the money and leaving, and there's been billions and billions of dollars worth of resources coming off the Wet'suwet'en territory, and absolutely no benefits have ever filtered back to the Wet'suwet'en people. I talked a little bit about entitlement, back a couple of years ago on some of our webinars, how when the government forced us onto reservations, they forced us into an entitlement position. So we've now, in the last 130 years, suffered 6 or 7 generations of entitlement, and our people a lot of our people become very complacent in that role of entitlement. And what Antoinette and Lillian and all of the other teachers doing in the Education Society is to try to bring those children back out on the land, and it's going to take probably another 6 or 7 generations to break that cycle of entitlement and have our people back out on the land. And that's what reconciliation looks like on the land. But the climate action is going to be a really significant action, because as you said there, we got to hold the government accountable for the greenhouse gases and giving out all these permits there that is causing all of this destruction, on our territory. But it's not just for us that we are doing this. We are doing that for all Canadian citizens, because if we're successful in this climate action, it'll reverberate right across Canada for all of the Euro-Canadians there that share our lands with us, and their children as well will benefit. So it's important to always keep that in mind. And the other thing too is, we started this action in 2019, and it's cost a huge portion of money that Raven has been really instrumental in raising. And what we would like to see is for all you beautiful people out there, to try to inject some cash into funds there for directing towards the court case, because the court case is going to probably go to the Supreme Court of Canada, and we're going to need massive injection or infusions of cash, to be able to go forward and be successful. So all you lovely people, just think about that, and we'll keep working. And it's nice to have everybody join the medicine show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you mentioned some of the different types of industry that's engaged on the territory. And I know that this court case isn't the only type of resistance that you as a group are involved in, and that I know that focus of your work is being able to enforce Wet'suwet'en law. I don't know who might like to speak to that, but we would love to hear a little bit more. Smogulgem or Alphonse, either of you.
Both are
Okay.
well versed in it, so Smogulgem or Tlumgan.
I'll offer to Slumcon first if he'd like to speak on it, and we can tag off on it if you want.
I didn't get the question. I was having trouble with my computer. I had to call Lucy. That's why it disappeared off the screen for a bit to straighten my computer out here.
No problem. I was just saying that I think we would all love to hear a little bit more about the efforts that you as a group are taking around asserting Wet'suwet'en law and the different types of resistance that are happening on the territory in response to both industry as well as the different impacts of climate change that it brings with it. Because I know this isn't the only thing that you're doing.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, there, right from the start, when Enbridge was trying to come through with the oil pipeline, we got all of our people together, and they were very united in the sense of standing up against oil coming to the West Coast, especially through our territory. And it was unanimous amongst all of the communities that we had and the feasts that we had that we'd protect that there would be no oil coming through. And in that, the hereditary chiefs have been standing up against the CGL, the Coastal Link pipeline, and there's all kinds of reasons that we stand up against it. And one of the ones I'll talk about is the environmental policies, the environmental assessment processes they've got in place. And what they do is they treat us as one of the users of their territory, not the territorial owners. And the questions are always around the fact that, or the questions are always, how will this project affect you? How will it affect you on your territory? And it never allows us to think about the big picture, about how is it affecting people in BC? How is it affecting people in Canada and the world? So the questions that we always get is of just how is this going to affect you? But in all of that, we've been standing against that, and we're very concerned over some of the stuff that Adam was talking about, the mining that's going on our territories and other territories, where there's no healthy way to get rid of the tailings, the acid rock drainage, the different heavy metals that are formed and just left on the territory. And what's happening is they'll dump it into a lake nearby, and it turns into a tailings pond. And that's very concerning for us. So when Adam was talking about the equity mine, that was a situation where they did put a tailings pond, but they got all kinds of catch basins that all the way down to Sam Goosley Lake, and the tailings still got down into the lake and down, and essentially right down into the Buck River, and destroyed the Buck River for the salmon that we're using it. So different things that we always stand up against that, but we feel kind of powerless against the industry because they seem to have the power over government, and it just doesn't change. We're concerned about the fisheries, and we're standing up with that. And at the what happens is we've got major corporations that are owning fishing licenses out on the coast, and they have the power to demand that they get the fish before they make it up into our territory, and our territory is suffering for that. So we have a situation where we always, every year, have a talk with all of the other people that are using the fish and try to demand that they let our fish come through. Our spawning beds are suffering, and we're not getting our fish. The fish that we get by deals made with the Department of Fisheries and Industry is that they'll give us the fish if our fish don't come up. And that doesn't help our salmon beds. And it's really important for us to really pay attention to that. So there's quite a few things. I'm really concerned about the logging. We used to have what I'm going to say, so much timber here, and it attracted 4 super mills on our territory, and the happened with those super mills. There was 4 super mills and 3 medium-sized mills in our territory. And now with the overcut situation on our territory that Adam talked about, we're down to like 1 super mill and 2 mid-sized mills that are running in our territory. And with that just talks about how much timber was taken off our territory. So my concern is the temperature of the water, how fast the water disappears off the land, because the trees aren't there to soak it up or to hold it. And my biggest concern is our glaciers right now. When I take a look at our glaciers and I see them disappearing, the glaciers are the regulators of our water to go from summer to spring to winter to fall. And it's very important that the glaciers are there to provide water for the streams, for the rivers, for the dry seasons. And right now, I'm very concerned that that our glaciers, the one that we look at up on the Hudson Bay Mountain, is about a quarter or less of what it used to be, and that was only in 50 years. Like in 1960, 1970, the glacier just came right down over the bulge of the mountain, and now it's just a little tiny piece on the top part of the mountain. And with that, that's just a sign of one of the glaciers that I'm looking at. And then we take a look at the other glaciers on our territory, where our watershed flows, or we're at the height of land for the Fraser River watershed and the Skeena River watershed. So we get to see the effects of the glaciers very strongly when we take a look. And that's a big concern I've got. So there's lots of things that are going on, and a lot of it is, I'm going to say, government not owning the fact that the job that they take as government is to try to regulate things better, but getting overrun by industry in a lot of the areas. The fishing industry gets them, the forest industry gets them, mining industry, and the oil and gas. So, and coal, we've got another coal project trying to start up in our territory, and coal is not something that anybody in the world would recommend starting up at this time. So there's many things that I'm concerned about, and I'll let Smoker Skim answer some more. Masai.
Yeah, the whole discussion around what's happening in our territory it spreads out everywhere, like Tahil was saying. Tebesa talked a little bit about the warming of the rivers and how the rivers are warming up, and the salmon spawning was delayed because the waters were too warm in the headwaters for them to spawn. Yes, it says a lot about what's happening in a larger scheme of things. And we're facing like a drought in our communities, all of our territories here. Like this winter, for example, like we've never had to face the amount of like the fire season last year was huge. There's a massive fire that burned right near our community of Wet'suwet'en, and it threatened us for a long period of time. We had a difficult time trying to cope with that. Like we had to pack up our stuff a lot. People were building their own firewalls, fire barriers around their homes. People were they're setting sprinklers up on top of people's homes to try and protect them. Through the winter, like just this past winter, we're going through a winter right now, and it was a really strange winter. We've never had this low amount of precipitation through a winter in a long time, and it was indicative of you look at what was happening in the communities, like all throughout the Northwest here. I logged on to Facebook a few years ago, and I've been kind of monitoring what's been going on in these communities and making friends. And there's a lot of reports from these communities of bears that were still wandering around in November and December, looking for food. They were hungry. The berry patches were all dried up. The drought that hit us this past summer impacted the bears. And just this spring, like 2 weeks ago, in the middle of February, we're having little baby cubs showing up in these villages looking for food. What happened to their moms? in the dens, what happened to them? We have to ask those questions. What's going on out in the territories? You know, it's not just a human impact, it's happening to all of us. All of the beings that we're trying to take care of as Wet'suwet'en people, because we're not just selfish people who look after our own needs. We have to look after the needs of all of the beings that share these territories with us. Because there's the reciprocity, there's the relationship that we have between the beings and ourselves. They protect us. They also provide for us. We take care of them and we protect them as well. And how do we deal with what's happening with industry and our waters? Like, everything's changing so rapidly. Like, you can even travel to the coast, and there's a lot of research that's happened over the years on ocean acidification. What's happening with the oceans now? You know, we look at human consumption of water, the hydrology change. Sahil talked a little bit about that, and how the waters are just flowing off of the territories in the spring because there's no forest cover. There's that, the flooding that happens every year, but there's also human use. What are we doing in our communities? What are we consuming in our bodies? Like, there's a lot of birth control. There's a lot of foods that have additives in them that impact our bodies. We don't absorb all of those things. That ends up coming out of our bodies and into the sewage systems. And those sewage systems eventually get drained into the rivers. And how many communities do we have on each of these rivers that eventually, before they actually reach the ocean, where this is happening? And it's accumulating and accumulating as it moves down through the rivers until it hits the ocean. And there's dead zones on the oceans where these rivers are entering the oceans. There's giant dead zones of areas where there was abundance of life in the past, and it's changing globally. Our biosphere is changing because of human use. And how are we going to make those changes as individuals or as communities and as nations? How do we make those changes occur? And right now, like it's really difficult for us to keep moving forward with our ambitions to try and save what's left of our environment when we're up against industry, and industry has got so many people on their sides. They've got the RCMP, like the police forces, the OPP. These police forces are on their sides. These city police forces are on their sides. Their pensions are being paid by industry, and they're standing up and stopping people who are trying to protect the environment from protecting the environment. So we're facing that, like even today, like we're in the middle of court cases where we're trying to protect our environments and we're being criminalized for that. How can we be criminalized when all we're doing is we're adhering to our own laws, our own Wet'suwet'en laws, our own Yankatini laws? People of the earth, indigenous people from all over the place have our own laws. And why are we being criminalized for trying to enforce those laws on our territories? Why are we being the criminals in this whole case? I'm having a hard time trying to wrap my head around that. You know, that we're attempting to save the environment and the biosphere, the climate, and there's so much that we're up against right now, and we have to really have a good look at what's happening around us. Slomkan also talked a bit about the glaciers and how important that is to us. There's a prophecy that one of our ancestors had. His name was Bini. He was one of our most famous prophets. He made prophecies about men coming in black cloaks. He made prophecies about trains coming. He made prophecies about airplanes flying through the air with people on them. He made prophecies about highways. He made all these prophecies, but one of the big prophecies he made before he left this world was he said that when the glaciers melt, the earth will catch on fire. And that was one of his biggest prophecies that he had. And we can see it today, the droughts that we're experiencing, the massive forest fires that are consuming communities. Like, there's communities being burned to the ground. Little effort from industry and government to rebuild them and give those people back their homes. But there's a lot of focus on making sure industry continues on its path of destruction. What's that saying about us as a human race? We're so complacent with the way things are happening that we're just most of us just letting it happen. We put our hands up in the air and say, well, I can't do anything now. What am I going to do? I can't make a difference. We can make a difference as people. We can all make a difference if we collectively get together and stand behind not only this course, but other court cases as well. Like the young man that we were talking about earlier, He's a part of that LaRose case. He's a Leksamasu member, a young youth. My nephew. He heard about what was happening with this court case, and he got in on it. And they asked him, like, what do you think about this court case that the youth are presenting? He said, I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part of that. And his mom told me about how excited he was when he got his name signed up to be a part of that court case. So like the Leksamasu, like our clan members are involved with a lot of things happening. The LaRose case, this case that's happening right now, the climate court case, the injunction that was recently attempted to be enforced by the police forces that I talked about, that's happening. Somebody asked about the prophet. The prophet's name was Bini. Bini was the name of our prophet. But yeah, we're standing up against a lot right now. And Bini talked about this stuff in his prophecies. And he's talking about the situation that we're in right now as Wet'suwet'en people, as human beings on this planet. We're up against something massive, and it's scary, and it's destroying who we are, and it's destroying any hope that we have for our future generations to make a stand, to make a difference, to thrive. We're destroying those opportunities for them. So yeah, I'll leave it at that, and I want to thank you all for coming on. Like, if you can, find a way to offer support, do financial fundraising within your own communities. You can have fundraisers in your communities to try and put towards the court case that we're dealing with right now. It's one of the biggest ones, I think, that is sitting on the docket right now. And as Wet'suwet'en, as Leksamasu people, we're honored to take up the stand on behalf of all the people who care about this beautiful earth that we all live on and share. Thank you.
I seen a question that if I could put a little light on it, and it was on migration. And one of the things that happened when the Alcan Aluminum built a dam up on the top of our territory, and we had our people used to live off of caribou. Our people used to migrate. They used to move with the caribou, and what happened when they flooded formed that Utsa Lake, the migration path got blocked, and the caribou kept on moving across the lake to try to migrate. And what they didn't do is they didn't log off the lake before they flooded it. And as the caribou migrated, they got caught up in the treetops and died. Like to this day, some of the helicopter pilots said they can take us over and they can show us the treetops. You could see the skeletal remains of the caribou, the young caribou, the big caribou, on the trying to swim across and get caught up in the treetops. But what happened is it wiped out the whole migration path of our caribou. Our people related to caribou very strong. We have a caribou clan that their crest is the caribou. And all we've got on our territory right now is maybe 14 to 20 caribou that are protected, that are on our territory, and there's no migratory path for them. So it's something that our people used to do. Our ways were changed big time back in 1952, 53, and we had to adjust to it. And we're finding another big change with the possibility of our fish not being able to make it up. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. It just triggered me with migratory. Masai.
Thank you for that. Thank you, both of you, for what you've shared there. We are getting near to the end of our time, but I wanted to give an opportunity. There are 5 of you here who have been so kind to give us your time tonight. Is there anything else you want to add to what we've talked about that you want to share about, in particular, about why this case is so important? If there's anything else you want to add.
I think, oh, go ahead.
I think we're living through a time that deserves to be called a crisis. And we all have that responsibility to treat it like it's a crisis. There's too much complacency happening. We all live in comfortable homes. We have air conditioning, we have heating, A lot of times we don't realize what's happening with the environment that our homes are sitting on. And we need to wake up and do something. We need to walk out of our comfort zones and walk out into the territories, walk out in the land and see what's actually going on. Walk out there this summer. There's going to be fires everywhere. There's going to be droughts. There's going to be flooding. You're going to see all these changes that are happening around you. We can't continue to sit in our homes and be distracted with social media or what media has to say to us. We have to get out there and have a look around and then find a way to stand together and make this difference.
The other
Excellent.
aspect that I'd like to talk about is the fact that we are in the headwaters up in Parrot Lake on Laksamasu territory, the Clore, where the pure, pristine territory was torn to bits. There's rare types of white pine trees and grizzlies that live up in that area. The things that we're not considering, and all people need to think about that with any of the headwaters, is they are linking communities. They are linking communities all the way from the top of that mountain, all the way, in our case, all the way down to the lower mainland and all the way to the Prince Rupert coast. The other really critical thing with that, like with the destruction of all the trees and the canopies that are supposed to be there to keep our waters cool, those are non-existent anymore. So the water temperature is rising, and we know that. And the other aspect of that is so many people, First Nations and non-First Nations people, I mean, we all love the land. We love it for one reason or another, whether it be for skiing, whether it be for outdoor sporting events or whatever. People are there for a reason. The people who live in the northern communities live here for a reason. And they need to try to embrace the fact that we are not just doing this as First Nations people for First Nations people, but it's for all people and for all the animals. But the other aspect of taking all those trees, you're removing the netting that holds the earth together. And that is the roots that are the trees are growing from. Those roots are mangled and erosion starts, the land starts falling into the water. And that's just the reality of what we're dealing with now. Oh, it's a
One of the things I was going to mention there in closing is, back in the mid 80s there, after the cod disappearing in the East Coast, we saw that coming already on the Pacific coast with our salmon. And there used to be, in the turn of the century, 100, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, over 100 canneries up and down the Pacific coast. And now we got probably about 3 or 4 canneries, bigger ones. But for example, they're up in the Atna and the Maurice. What had happened there is we used to have over 1 million sockeye spawning up in that region. And now we just got a few thousand pieces that are spawning up there. And the springs used to be in tens of thousands, and now we just have a few hundred spring salmon spawning up there. So back in the 80s, I was one of the head negotiators there for the Gigsan and Wet'suwet'en, and we tried to talk to, we were negotiating with the commercial fishery and DFO, and we tried to get a complete moratorium on commercial fishing for at least 30 years so that you could have 6 to 7 cycles of fish come back, because we have so much spawning habitat on our territory. We just have no escapement. We don't have any fish coming back to them. So that's one of the biggest problems that we're faced with in regards to salmon and all of the other species, the coho, the spring salmon, and the steelhead. They're all migratory fish, and is really important there, that, you know, if people, you know, can't help us, you know, in this climate thing monetarily, you know, get out there and try to help in other ways as well by campaigning, you know, against, you know, all of the destruction of the environment and the commercial fishery and all of the other different industries that are heavily impacting the livelihood of the Wet'suwet'en people and all the Euro Canadians that are sharing this beautiful land with us. Tabi Masai. Love you all.
And my hope with this the court challenge is that we can get the governments to start acting instead of telling us what they're going to do, because it's very important that there's some teeth put to a lot of the different goals and things that we want for the future in our environment. And the way it stands right now, the government will tell us what they're going to be doing, and it'll never meet the targets. We need to put some teeth to some of the words that they're putting out there to us. Right now, it seems to be the government just looking to hang on to their power. And when it comes to a really difficult decision like dealing with the environment, and it's all of the world powers that are doing it, they're afraid to step into it and to really act on it. And I'm hoping that we can put some pressure with this court case, if it's successful, to really make them change the way they're talking and start acting on everything that we're hoping they can do. So, Tabi Masai.
Miigwech to all of you for everything you've shared with us tonight, and thank you so much. Before we close off, I believe Andrea just has a few last words and logistics about where folks can find more information as well. But again, to all five of you, thank you so much for everything you've shared tonight. Andrea?
Thanks, Leslie Ann. It's overwhelming to hear both about how terrible the impacts are in your territory, but also from the people who are here on the webinar and their messages of solidarity and support. It just feels like this is possible with us getting together like this. And I know you chiefs have sustained a movement for decades, really since Delgamuukw and beyond. And this is just a small part of it, but this moment feels like a real opening and a real possibility. So thanks to everyone for listening and being here. Some of you might not know who Raven are. So when we say donate, the money goes through an organization called Raven. It stands for Respecting Aboriginal Values and Environmental Needs. And our sole purpose is to fundraise, often by settlers, but international people donate, Indigenous people donate, and we give the money to nations who are standing up in court to protect their rights and our common future. So this is the work of all of us. This is one place where you can put reconciliation into action, stand in genuine solidarity, in tangible solidarity. We also know that not everybody has money. These are tough times for a lot of people, but you do have networks and you do have family and friends that you can reach out to. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen here and show you a couple of resources that exist. So bear with me here. You'll see all my messy tabs. It's like having someone walk into your bedroom. All right. This is our fundraising page. So this is a software program whereby you can click this little button here and become a fundraiser. You can fundraise as an individual or you can join a team. And what it invites you to do is tell your story about why you care and then share it with your friends and family, invite them to donate. It seems like maybe my friends aren't that rich, or maybe this isn't going to work, I'm too shy. The average fundraiser actually raises $500. And earlier we were talking about the Northern Gateway Pipeline and Enbridge. And one of the ways that that project was stopped, the way that the environmental certificate was revoked, was because First Nations led a huge effort. And that was backed by you and me and people like us who donated fundraised and did this crowdfunding thing to support the legal challenges. And we raised $600,000 and the project got canned. So let's do it again, folks. So that's fundraising. We also have this Allies Toolkit where you can go through the links and you can have a look at the different ways you can support. But we also have lots of social media graphics that you can share. And then these handy messages. Okay, so if you want to, at the end of this webinar, just spread the word a little further, then please share stuff from our Allies Toolkit. The links will be in the chat. This is an example of a team. This was called We Are the Stronghold. It was launched in 2020, sort of a COVID thing in a way. $12,000 was raised just by ordinary people reaching out through their networks. So it's really incredible how this stuff works. There's also people organizing events. So this is an upcoming event in Victoria. It's called Run for Funds, and it's organized by a couple of students who, Casey and Sarah, who have done this for a few years running now, whereby they invite people to come do a 5 or a 10K run or walk at Elk Lake in Victoria, and all the proceeds are donated to Raven. So you can register, you can donate, you can come along to this, and you can also organize your own event. So wherever you are, have a bake sale, host a drag show, have a pancake breakfast, do something that you love to do to invite your friends to join forces in solidarity with Wet'suwet'en. And of course, making a donation is always so welcome. If anyone has any issues with donating online, we also accept all kinds of other forms, and our development director is right here on the webinar. So you can reach out through the chat, or again, just respond to any of our emails and we'll give you a hand there. So yeah, I couldn't say it any better than the Chiefs in terms of how grateful we are and how much your support matters. But I just really want to echo what they're saying. It's been an incredibly long struggle. It's been an incredibly inspiring upholding of Wet'suwet'en law. We're all learning so much, and we can give back here. We have the power. The power is the people. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrea, for that. And thank you for everyone who joined us tonight. And again, a huge thank you to all 5 of you for joining and sharing tonight. Chimegwech.